Hello and welcome. So this is going to be a lore reading. We're going to figure out what we learned by going on the expedition to the deep roads. And like the few things that at the start of the second act that can't just stop. Alright. Codex. Golem. Once a crucial part of Orosmaj's defenses, golems have all but vanished as the secret to their manufacture was lost over 1,000 years ago. What few golems remain are guarded closely by the Shaperate, brought out when battle the Darkspawn grows desperate enough to risk their loss. No one would sell a golem for any price now, but in ancient times, dwarves sold many golems to the Magister Lords of Tevinter. They are devastating weapons of war, living siege engines capable of hurling boulders like a catapult and plowing through enemy lines like an earthquake. Didn't think earthquakes plowed through enemy lines. And given what we know about how they were created, that is, they needed to basically put a living soul into the construct to make it animate, that makes selling them to the Magister Lords of Tevinter a form of slavery. But I mean, that's on brand for Tevinter and also a lot of societies in the real world. The profane. We are forgotten, remember. We clawed at rock until our fingers bled. We cried out for justice, but were unheard. Our children wept in hunger, so we feasted upon the gods. Here we wait in aeons of silence. We few, we profane, found scrawled on a wall in the Lost Ravan tag by explorer Faruma Helmi, 510 Exalted, unknown author. It's kind of a question, what exactly profane were? Perhaps are, from the sounds of it. It seems like they are dwarves who were, possibly dwarves who were abandoned in the deep roads. It's trapped there, and ended up possessing the rock that they tried to claw to get out, but if I understand how this setting works, souls don't stick around very much, so basically pretty quickly after you die, they just go off. You just go through the fade to wherever your souls go. Though I think there's a Witch of the Wilds who in a graphic novel managed to demand answers from a soul before it moved on and threatened to have it bound to the rotting corpse. Though I don't know if that was something she could actually do or was just a threat. But so I guess these are probably spirits who were, though that wouldn't really work with dwarves because apparently dwarves don't exist or like functionally invisible to the Fade and spirits. Yeah, don't know. Rock Wraith. 20 years ago, in the Legion of the Dead, I've seen spiders larger than a Bronto, broodmothers lounging in putrescence, surrounded by their corrupted children, and unnamed things with flesh turned against itself. But worse, by far, was in an old mine shaft down in Hydrun Taig. We chased an emissary down there to a tunnel dead-ended in rubble. It was a vicious fight. He picked my men off until only 4 of us were left. When it seemed we'd finally fulfilled our oaths, our fight broke out with something long dormant. What I thought was rubble gathered beneath our feet, taking terrible form, a beast of stone surrounding the shattered skeleton of a man, a rock wraith, a spirit of a dwarf so foul the stone itself rejected him. One swing of its boulder hand crushed the emissary, and then it turned its eyeless skull towards us. We fled back up the tunnel, its heavy footsteps thundering at our backs. When we reached the tag, we finally turned, knowing that out in the open we had no cover and couldn't hope to outrun the wraith. But when it came to the exit, it struck the tresses holding up the ceiling of the shaft, closing it in forever. Perhaps, in the end, it felt remorse. Perhaps it was one lost soul recognizing another from the journals of Amrun, Legion of the Dead. Yeah, that does not seem to exactly fit the lore as I know it, but yeah. Valdecine. In the ancient days before the Darkspawn, when dwarven cities wound through the roots of the earth, House Valdecine single-handedly kept the empire supplied with lyrium. One day the mining family shut its doors of their tag. They spoke not to their noble patrons, nor the king. Not even a visiting paragon. Days in silence passed before the doors to the Valdecine tag opened. Anxious partners discovered it empty. Not one soul remained, no bodies, and no sign of what had happened. House Valdecine left only a staff of strange metal behind. It looked like lyrium and chilled one's heart like a remembered sorrow. The king sealed the staff inside the tag, and no dwarf ever ventured there again. As recounted by Shaper Merta. So that's where we were. Places. Primeval tag, your majesty, it's difficult getting a straight answer out of the scavenger. These sods keep themselves so blighted that they can't think straight. Much less keep spit in their mouths. He says, however, that he's gone down into parts of the deep roads that are so old that our people forgot them long before the blight even happened. He spoke of great statues and temples. Temples! He spoke of things that could have only been made of magic, and impossible ruins untouched by Darkspawn. He described creatures the likes of which we've never seen. Honestly, those structures do not seem much different from what the dwarves make other places in the deep roads, so I feel like it is probably possible without magic. None say it's possible, of course. I've conferred with the Shaper, and he says the memories date back to the founding of the first Tig. What could have come before that? Good question. Yes, we're unable to explore these depths the scavenger spoke of because of the Darkspawn, but surely the memories would speak of such places if they existed. Maybe, or maybe there's reasons why they aren't in the memories. They could have been destroyed, or honestly, a lot of our history is just lost that we just don't know because it wasn't recorded, or whatever recordings were made have since been destroyed. Yet in the scavenger's belongings, amidst all the filth, there was a single idol. It was clearly of dwarven make, but not resembling any paragon on record. The idol was dressed in a manner I've never seen. Shaper memories could not identify it, or the substance from which it was made. The thought that the memories could be wrong is unsettling. Excerpt from a report sealed in the Orzammar Royal Archives by order of King Analar, yes. Gelden Blade in 848 Blessed. Tale of Aloran. In the days after the rising of Zazikil, the Darker Ones covered every corner of the land. The Archdemon drove all the nations of the world before him, Shemlin and Evhen alike. In the far north, where the hills wander near the plains, and the earth is eternally baked under the uncaring sun, the lands which the Shemlin call Anderfells. There's an older name for them place, I don't remember what it is. A clan of our people lived, struggling to survive the blight. Ilorin was their keeper, a hunter in his younger days, crafty as any wolf. He led his people always just ahead of the Darkspawn who chased them. But the old hunter knew that even Hala cannot run forever. They must turn and fight or be run down. At the foot of the Merdane, the Darkspawn cornered Ilorin's clan. That night the moon was strangled by clouds and the earth concealed by a dread mist that rose out of nowhere so that the hillmen could not tell up from down. In their confusion, the darkspawn attacked, but Alurin was prepared for them. Around all the camp, the had strewn dry grass, brush, and brambles. When the sound of the footfalls began, Alurin and the other called up the old magic. They struck out with lightning, and the bolts missed the darkspawn. They hit their target all the same. The sea of kindling lit, and not one dark creature made it through the fire to reach Ilorin's clan. From the tale of Ilorin, written by Zathrian, as it had been passed down from keeper to keeper for generations. That is one of the reasons why I think that lightning would not be used very much. If you have magic, because the chance of starting fires. Interesting, it's written by Zathrian. Orichalcum. Like lyrium, orichalcum is a metal most commonly encountered in liquid form. Unlike lyrium, however, orichalcum forms pools. Wait, lyrium is a liquid? Then how does it form crystalline structures? That implies it's a liquid at normal temperatures. It must be drawn like water rather than mined. Deep orichalcum is the most common type of the metal and is often found in places where opals are mined. The rarer crystalline orichalcum is found in small pools in the mountains. Folk wisdom says that a drop of orichalcum mixed with wine is a potent aphrodisiac, though it has a pungent smell rather similar to lye, so I could not bring myself to put this legend to test. An excerpt from an alchemical primer of metallurgy, volume 1, by Lord Cerastes of Monaspell. Quickly look something up. I remember there being something about some legendary metal that they actually figured out was a real thing. No, apparently it was actual thing of an alloy of copper. Probably in a deep roads. There isn't a dwarf alive who remembers the deep roads as they once were. They were the network of tunnels that joined the Tigers together. To be honest, it isn't even right to give them a simple term as tunnels. They were works of art with centuries planning demonstrated in the geometry of their walls, with the statues of the Pericons that watch over travelers, with the flow of lava that keeps the deep roads lit and warm. Hey, what about, ventilation systems so you don't get poisoned by the gases that escape from the lava, and, insulation so you don't melt and burn. The cloud gazers up on the surface talk about the imperial highway built by the magisters of old, a raised walkway that crossed thousands of miles, something that could have only been built by magic. Perhaps it is comparable to deep roads, although we dwarves didn't need magic. Yeah, I just had the thought, maybe there's also a thing in this setting where they assume that, ordinary people could not have made a thing, and so assume that it must have been magic. Because that's a thing in our world where we think, oh, these ancient peoples could not have possibly, known how to build this thing, so it must have been, aliens, or ancient high technology that we've lost. I suppose it doesn't matter anymore. The Darkspawn rule the deep roads now, and when Orzammar sealed off the entrances to the deep roads, abandoning everything that lay out there, we handed over the kingdom that was to those black bastards forever. To think there are genlocks crawling over Bonammer now, tearing down our statues and defiling our greatest works. Corruption covers everything we built out there. Every dwarf who goes out and comes back says that it gets worse with each passing year. The foulness spread a little further. Would foulness spell further or farther? And the cloud gazers think the darkspawn are gone just because they aren't spilling out onto the surface. One day when Orzammar is gone for good, they'll find out differently. Those darkspawn won't have anywhere else to go but up, and they'll do it. The surface folk will have themselves a blight that will never end. A transcript from conversation with a member of the Dwarven Mining Cast, 890 Blessed. Lyrium. Lyrium is the king of metals. Beneath our feet it sings. When properly refined it is a smooth, slightly iridescent, silvery liquid. In the hands of the Dwarven smithing class it is mixed with steel to produce indestructible armor and blades that hold an edge for centuries. It is in the hands of the Shaper it becomes a repository for living memories, and some scholars maintain this is evidence that lyrium is itself alive. Yeah, I remember there was kind of a joke meme going on with dwarves and like producing just like what they feel is cheap equipment and selling them to people on the surface, and like this will only last a couple centuries, and they come back and they find like, oh yes, this is an heirloom that's you've been holding on to for centuries, and I was like, yeah, that's cheap crap. It's not good, but anyway. It finds its most lucrative application in the hands of the Formari, who use it in conjunction with baser metals like gold, silverite, iridium, or even iron to produce enchantments. Description of gold as being a base metal is interesting, given what that gold is considered to be like the highest metal in our world. But anyway, though mages of course consume it in a diluted form to bolster their abilities, this is not recommended. Overindulgence in lyrium can have disastrous consequences, particularly in more concentrated amounts. It's not advisable for instance, that any reader handle raw lyrium, which in many cases can kill on contact. Excerpt from An Alchemical Primer in Metallurgy, Volume 1 by Lord Cerastes of Monris Pell. Demonic Possession. Why do demons seek to possess the living? History claims that they are malevolent spirits, the first children of the Maker, angry at their creator for turning from them and jealous of those creations he considered superior. They stare across the veil at the living and do not understand what they see, yet they know they crave it. They desire life. They pull the living across the veil when they sleep and prey upon their psyche with nightmares. Whenever they can, they cross the veil into our world and possess it outright. We know that any demon will seek to possess a mage, and upon doing so will create an abomination. They will? That's curious. The last two games seem to say that not necessarily. Though, arguably, Anders was a little bit of a different situation. It was a spirit that was unwillingly put into a corpse, and then to give the corpse's widow, some closure, it willingly went into another host, which is kind of curious. I mean, I think they've had like spirits and demons possess inanimate objects and plants, so it seemed like it could go anywhere, really. We know that any demon will seek to possess a mage, and upon doing so will create an abomination. Most of the world does not know, however, that the strength of an abomination depends entirely on the power of the demon that possesses the mage. This is true, in fact, of all possessed creatures. One demon is not the same as any other. Demons can, for instance, be classified in Chatter Brahm's categorization of demons into that portion of the psyche the primary purpose has been held since the Tower Age. According to Brahm, the weakest and most common of demons are those of rage. They are the least intelligent, most prone to violent outbursts against anything living. They expend their energies quickly, and the most powerful of them exhibiting great strength, and occasionally the ability to generate fire. The next are demons of hunger. In living hosts, they become cannibals and vampires. Within the dead, they feed upon the living. Theirs are the powers of draining both life force and of mana. Next are the demons of sloth, first on Bram scale, that are capable of true intelligence. In its true form, the demon is known as a shade. Be interesting. A thing that is nearly indistinct and invisible, for such is sloth's nature. It hides and stalks unaware, and when confronted, it sows fatigue and apathy. Demons of desire are amongst the most powerful, and are the ones most likely to seek out the living and actively trick them into a deal. These demons will exploit anything that can be coveted: power, wealth, lust, and they will always end up getting far more than they give. A desire demon's provenance is that of illusions and mind control. Yet always the desire demons are portrayed as embodying lust, as opposed to like power or wealth or anything else. Might they also cover gluttony? Strongest of all demons are those of pride. These are the most feared creatures to loose upon the world. Masters of magic and in possession of vast intellect, they are the true schemers. It is they who seek most strongly to possess mages, and they will bring other demons across the veil in numbers to achieve their own ends, although what that might be has never been discovered. A greater pride demon brought across the veil would threaten the entire world. From Maker's first children by Bader, senior enchanter of Ostwick, 812 Blessed. Maybe I would think feel like I'd put desire, because desire actually would spur action as opposed to just being proud of what you have done or did. Characters. Bethany, after the Deep Roads. Since joining the Grey Wardens, Bethany has had little contact with her family. Resentful that Mariana escaped the Deep Roads unscathed while she nearly died, Bethany communicates only with her mother, relaying little beyond the fact that she is alive and continues to travel with Warden Stroud. Her responsibilities rarely bring her back to Kirkwall. She usually patrols the deep in the Free Marches or along the border of Ferelden, the only member of the Hawk family to return to their homeland. Letters and notes. Nothing. Now, just notes. Nothing. Well, that's nothing really. And that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. Do any Realm Things YouTube's buttons, and have a nice day.